Hey, what's up, everybody? How are you today? How are you today? Listen, I am Dr. Sean Arthur, and I am giving you good greetings, saying hello to you for today. Listen, I am coming to you today because I want to share some additional strategies with you about dealing with holiday loss. 5 ways dealing with holiday grief and holiday loss. And this is according to Dixie Lincoln Nichols. Dixie Lincoln Nichols. Um, Dixie Lincoln Nichols. And so, okay. Oh, 1 second here. Okay, wait. Let's see. Okay, all right. Sorry, got that fixed for a second. All right. So listen. So 5 ways uh, to deal with grief and loss during the holidays. And this is according to Dixie Lincoln Nichols. This is her strategies, what she shared, how people, or how she has dealt with grief. Over the last few days, there have been quite a bit of people who I know who have experienced a loss. Some of them, are in the same circle. And so, just this past week, I learned of at least 3 deaths of people who were like the matriarch or patriarch of their family, and so now their family is having to deal with their loss. And so now I just want to share with you just 5 quick strategies according to Dixie Lincoln Nichols on how to deal with holiday grief and loss. All right. First thing she says is that when it comes to the holiday grief and loss, is that she takes time for herself. She takes time for herself, and what that means is she figures out what is happening in her headspace, and then she says, "I need to figure out what I'm eating, what I'm not eating. Am I exercising? Not exercising? Am I sleeping too long?" And she figures out what's happening with her personally, so that she can be aware and conscious of what's happening when it comes to grief and loss. So she is taking time for herself. So she says she takes the time to exercise. She said she assesses to see, have I eaten, because sometimes when the grief hits you, um, then you're like, oh man, am I eating? Am I getting the proper nutrition? So she says she makes sure she at least eats something, drink something to nourish her body. Or am I eating too much so that I'm not stress eating, or getting into a bad habit when it comes to that. So when it comes to grief, first of all, you need to take care of yourself. So I would suggest go for a walk. Go take a walk. Um, get the stress out, get the anxiety out, get the feelings out. Go for a walk. Keep yourself mobile and moving. Take care of yourself. Secondly, she says, I feel my feelings without guilt. Right? She says, I feel my feelings without guilt. What this means is that you have to deal with those emotions just as they are, as they come, right? And if you're feeling sad, feel sad. If you're feeling happy, feel happy. If you're feeling depressed, feel depressed. And you don't have to be guilty about that. Why? Because your life has been changed, things have changed, things have been upset, your whole world has turned and changed. And so whatever feelings you're feeling, feel those without any guilt. No one can tell you how to grieve. And so she says, I feel my feelings without guilt. If I'm sad, if I'm mad, if I'm angry, then I'm feeling my feelings without any guilt. All right. She said, even if you feel like you want to be alone, be alone. Third thing she says, I talk about my loved one whenever I feel like it. She said what she noticed with her family is that when her father passed, that they were not saying his name, they were speaking about him, and it became an uneasy tension because no one wanted to trigger the other person. So what happened then is that she said, "Well, let's just put it out there. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about his memories, his favorite food, that favorite joke he used to tell, that favorite story, or that famous line that he had." I think about my father. My dad used to say to me, he said, "If you shoot for the moon, And if you land among the stars, you're still on high ground. And that's something that keeps me to this day. That saying that my father used to say. And so speak about your loved one. Talk about them. For some, yes, some other people in your family may not be comfortable, but not talking about them is not going to make the reality change. The person is gone, but you can keep their memory alive. You can keep their legacy alive by talking about them, and making sure that your children, grandchildren, and cousins all be able to share it in the stories, man. I tell you what, man. Another thing, man. I wish I could tell my brother a story that happened, man, when the rodeo burger came out with Burger King, man. Me and my brother laugh to this day, man. That was a funny story that happened with my dad and me and my brother. So we text each other about that to this day, and we laugh. My father passed away in 2016, and just points along the way, we talk about him, and we laugh because he was a hilarious person. Always kept it light, and so that's how we remember him. So talk about your loved one, the things they used to say, used to do, how they used to dress, ways they acted, all of that. Right? Okay. So it's the third thing. She says, talk about my loved one whenever I feel like it. Then, fourthly, she says, I am patient with the process. She says, I'm patient with the process. And here's why she says she's patient with the process. The reason why she's patient with the process is because life after loss requires adjustment. I've got to say that again. Life after loss requires a lot of adjustments. Life after loss requires a lot of adjustments. You may have been used to calling your parent. You may have been used to checking on them. You may have been used to spending a special day in the week with them. Just all kinds of things. And now that has changed. And now you have to make some adjustments in your life rather quickly because that person is no longer a part of your life in a physical, tangible way. And so you have to give yourself time to be patient with yourself, to go through the process of grief, because life now requires you to adjust. And adjusting is never easy. Adjusting is never easy. So I want you to know that give yourself the time and be patient with yourself because it's a process. Those stages I always talk about: anger and depression and going through acceptance. All of these are part of the grief process and the grief cycle. So you got to be patient with the process. Give yourself time to adjust because life is going to require some adjustments. And then fifthly, the fifth thing she says is that she's clear on what she is and is not going to do for the holidays. She's very clear, crystal clear on what she is going to do and not going to do for the holidays. And so she says, the first Thanksgiving when her father, they decided not to cook a big meal. They just did something very simple. They watched movies, watched the game, and they chilled out, right? So you got to be clear on what you're going to do for the holidays. Some people have lost their loved one, and Christmas is only a few days away. Figure out what you're going to do, what you're not going to do for the holidays. If you don't want to do the giveaway and exchange thing, give yourself permission to do that. If you want to do that for this year, but take the time and be clear on what you want to do and what you don't want to do. If you don't want to go to people's houses, you don't want to be around a lot of people, you can decide that. Don't want to cook a big meal, you don't have to do that either. But be clear with yourself so you don't have to set unrealistic expectations. People don't have to be disappointed, saying all kinds of things. But you can be clear on what you want to do for the holidays. All right. So I want to review these 5 things for you. Number one, you want to make sure that you take time for yourself. Then number two, you want to have your feelings without guilt. Feel your feelings without guilt. Number three, talk about your loved one. Make sure that you're getting it out there, speaking it, talking about them, making their memory live on. Number four, you want to be patient with with the process, and remember, life after loss requires adjustments. Things are different. All right. And then number five, be crystal clear on what you're going to do and not going to do for the holidays. So these 5 strategies, I hope, can help. All right. God bless.